In today's episode, we are going to be looking at how we can deploy a React Remix application to Azure Container Apps and Postgres database. Head on to React Remix, run, and look at BlueStack application. Find the command for creating a new application, copy it into your terminal, and follow the prompt. It's going to take a few seconds to set everything up. And by the time this is set up, we will have a full project with both the backend and the front end set up for us. So in our project, we can see that we have a package.json with few commands. We have the Docker command, we have the dev command. So we'll start first by setting up the Docker command. And this is initially needed for the application to deploy our database locally, right? So now we are provisioning our data layer. And then afterwards, now that we have a database, we need to seed it, right? So we run the npm run setup. It will do the migration of our tables, but then also it will seed the database with some dummy data. Last but not least, we will run the npm run dev, which will serve our application. The run dev has two processes in place, so it runs the backend and the front end. So once that's done, you can access it on localhost 3000, and you can see that we have our two routes that are working right now, which is the sign in and sign up button. So now let's head to the Azure portal and look for container apps. So this is the next step. And here we are going to just create a container app. So this is where we will deploy and serve our application. I already have one. I didn't change the binding here, but feel free to change it to localhost 3000, but we will do that later on in this project. Next, we will look at the Azure database for Postgres, and we are going to fill in some information as we did with the Azure Container Apps. Choose whether the workload is going to be production or development. And then here we are going to give it a name for the admin user, and then the same as the password. Then we're gonna give it a password. I already have created that, so I'm not going to do it, but then it's something really interesting. You can add your IP here so that you can access your database from your local machine. So you can see here now we're toggled to my Postgres, the one that I actually have deployed already. And when we go to databases, we will see that there is a system database, there is a maintenance, but there is the Postgres, which is the default one that will be provisioned for us. And then when you press connect, you are prompted to enter a password. This is the password for your database. I don't think I actually remember my password here, so I'll skip through this. So next we will go through this step here, which is creating a GitHub repo. So I encourage you, if you don't have a GitHub account, to create one, because we will be deploying our application through a GitHub action, and we will see that. So in this next step here, we are going to be looking at creating an Azure Container Registry. And this is where we are going to be hosting our application as like a container, right? So the way a React Remix BlueStack works is that it has a Docker file. So what it does, it packages like your entire project into this small container that is its own application with everything that it needs. And we deploy that into what we call Azure Container Registry. So once you have that, you can see that we have the registry name, the login. So next, we are going to create an app registration with the goal to have a service principal that allows us to deploy our application through a GitHub action. So go ahead and register your application, give it a name. So for me, it's going to be GitHub deployment. Again, to follow through, go to your Entra ID. If you don't have an app registration, create a new registration. But I created one, and then you can see here that I have now a client ID and a tenant ID. So the final step is to assign this app registration a role. So I'll go to my subscription, access control, and then go to our role assignment. Look for the different roles. here, but we're gonna use the privileges role here and just assign the contributor role. Once this is done, actually let's select the member, look for your GitHub deployment. So type in GitHub deployment and select that, and then we will finalize the review assignment. Now that we are done with this, let's actually go to our GitHub action, GitHub repo, go to your settings, and there's secrets variable, you find actions, and then you copy and paste the JSON in the description below. Now let's go back to our deployment. We will copy each of client ID, the client secret, and so on. If you can see here that I swapped the client secret and client ID, so I'm gonna fix that right now. But if you haven't created a client secret, we have to go back to our intra ID, select secret certificate and secrets, press on new client secret, give it a name, set the expiration date, and then press add. Once we complete this, we are given a value, and this is the value that we will have to copy into our action secrets. And the last step is to actually go to our subscription and get the subscription ID. So go to the home page, look for subscription, get the subscription ID, and copy it into our action secrets. Once this is set, we'll look briefly through our YAML file here. And in the YAML file, you can see at the end that we are using the database URL line 27. So we are going to go to our container app and then go to secrets and create a new secret for database URL. Make it use container app secrets, and then you paste in your URL connection to your Postgres database and press add. Once this is successful, we can actually go to our containers, look for environment variable, and instead of actually having a plain text, now we can edit this so that it will use a secure connection that's coming from the secrets of the container app. This is a very nice way of handling secrets, but you can also, instead of using container apps, you can use Key Vault for handling your secrets, such as your database connection, strings, and so on and so forth. The session secret is an optional thing. It's a nice thing to have because Remix application uses it, but again, you can enter it manually there and it should be fine. Once you do this, make sure that everything is set up, and then you press create. Let's actually run the workflow, and then you can see that our app is being deployed now. Once it deploys, we will see that it migrates. It first go through like connecting to our Azure, setting up Node, and then it actually sets up our database. It does the migration of any new tables. If there is any new seed files, also it would seed the database. Then it will go to the build in the container. It runs the Docker file, it builds the image. Once the image of the container is all set, it pushes that to the container registry. And from there, it will proceed into the last step, which is running the container image. So it takes a little bit of time for this to run, like I would say like around 1 minute or 2 max. But once everything is cached, it should be faster. But the first time, it might take a little bit longer. Once this is all pushed to our Azure instance and running in our container environment, we can go to our container app and try to open the app URL. Sometimes, again, it takes a little bit of a startup time for it to be fully running, but you can check if it's going through a transitive state, so you can go to your revision, and if it's activating, it just might mean that the app is not fully ready yet. But you can always click on the revision itself, press on the link, and here you can see that the app is running as expected, as if it's running it locally. I can navigate between pages, and that's a wrap for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed it.